Thank you, everybody, for joining today's webinar titled An Inside Look, previewing the Mayo Clinic Department of Surgery's Beahrs Surgical Innovation Summit presented by Mayo Clinic. I'm Ben Wagner. I'm the Associate Director of Communications here at Medical Alley, and I will be your host for today's session. First, I do want to say thank you, of course, to Mayo Clinic for their continued partnership and support. Mayo Clinic needs no introduction. They, of course, are a global leader in clinical care, in research, and in innovation. And they have also been a trusted partner and dedicated partner of Medical Alley since our founding nearly 41 years ago. And we are certainly proud to continue building on that relationship here today. This conversation will give you a behind-the-scenes look at the Beahrs Surgical Innovation Summit, an annual gathering that brings together some of the top surgical minds to explore the future of surgical care, new technologies, and the innovation pipeline within Mayo Clinic's Department of Surgery. And with us today are two outstanding leaders from that department who are shaping that future. First is Dr. Cornelius Thiels, the Associate Chair of Innovation for Mayo's Department of Surgery. Also with us today is Dr. Kyle Ettinger, the Director of Innovation for Mayo's Department of Surgery. Together, they will share insights on what you can expect here at this year's summit, some key themes that are driving surgical innovation, and we'll also touch on a bit of how Mayo Clinic is thinking about the next era of surgical advancement. Dr. Thiels, Dr. Ettinger, welcome. It's great to have you both with us here today. I think to get started, why don't we take a minute and have the both of you introduce yourselves. And Dr. Thiels, I will hand it over to you to begin.
Yeah, thank you so much and for having us. And thank you all everyone who's attending, either in person or listening in the future. We're really honored to kind of meet with you and kind of share a little bit of the inside scoop of what we have been doing in surgery at Mayo Clinic and really what we're looking to continue to do and grow. Largely around the Beahrs Innovation Summit, which was kind of our one-day kind of summary of really our year-long process of innovation that has been going on for 100 years and we continue to do in the next years to come and decades to come, and want to kind of share a little bit inside scoop of how we can hopefully collaborate with hopefully many of you on the call to continue to innovate to help patients in the future. My training, I'm actually a surgeon. I do pancreas and sarcoma surgery, including robotic surgery, and then I have an AI lab, which is most of my research. But really the reason I'm here today is because I lead innovation for Department of Surgery with a team that you'll meet here, hopefully throughout the call a little bit as well. And we work to really help connect other innovators from outside of Mayo Clinic with Mayo Clinic surgeons and researchers in the surgical area so we can help innovate together, because we clearly can't innovate in a silo anywhere, even at Mayo Clinic, where we have a lot of resources and a lot of great minds. But we know that a lot of some of the best minds and resources are outside of Mayo Clinic as well. And really the future of innovation is through collaboration. And so hopefully we'll kind of share how we can continue to approach that in the future with you all today. So thank you.
Looking forward to that. Dr. Thiels, thank you. Dr. Ettinger, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thanks very much for the opportunity to talk with everybody here today. I certainly echo all the sentiments from Dr. Thiels, and I'm Kyle Ettinger, and I also function in a partnered role in leadership within the Department of Surgery and Innovation. My background and training is in maxillofacial surgery with a specific focus in head and neck oncology and reconstruction. And as you may note, that we come, Dr. Thiels and I, from very different and varied backgrounds, because innovation is a huge, expansive landscape that requires a lot of different insights and lenses through which to view. And part of our partnership is to help bring a wide scope of innovation projects, understanding and background to Mayo Clinic, and help to connect, like I said, multiple individuals to various providers and experts here at Mayo Clinic at large within the Department of Surgery. So we really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you here today, and looking forward to the discussion.
Well, thank you both. And why don't we dive right in here too? First off, Dr. Thiels, could you start by giving us really a sense of how innovation is being approached within the Department of Surgery at Mayo Clinic?
Yeah, thanks. So I think, really it's helpful to kind of give a little context, right? I think everyone knows Mayo Clinic, right? It's a huge organization, nearly 80,000 employees. We have 3 campuses across the U.S., as well as many health system sites, and treat patients around the country and the world. But with such a big organization, obviously, we can't necessarily connect everyone with everything at Mayo and innovate across all of Mayo. There's a lot of innovation happening in areas. So really, we kind of have a scope that we focus on. And that's what we're going to talk about today, and that is the Department of Surgery. So while everyone at Mayo works for Mayo Clinic, it's one not-for-profit organization. There's not different companies or departments or people employed in different areas. We do have a group that kind of we work with to kind of help with innovation. That doesn't mean we can't connect people with others around Mayo, and we do work a lot with others around Mayo. But this is really the core department that we focus on for innovation, just because we don't want to be spread too thin, and we really want to help innovate in this surgical area. So really what this department is, it's the Department of Surgery in Rochester, which is obviously Mayo's flagship campus. It has over 100 surgeons, so a very large department, probably bigger than most hospitals in terms of number of surgeons, but still one group of surgeons that all work together in many different areas. It's a lot of different specialties, and I'll talk about those in a minute, but really it's kind of from the nose down to the pelvis, kind of traditional general surgery specialties, 12 different ones with anywhere from 2 to 20 surgeons in each specialty. We also have over 20 training programs with, I think, well over 100 trainees in those programs. So we train a lot of different types of subspecialty surgeons, given that we have a very large subspecialty practice. And then our department also has over 400 allied health staff in the department, as well as obviously have thousands of people to help support the surgeries we do and the patients we take care of. So while we're a big department, we do have kind of a narrow focus in terms of what we do surgically and from an innovation standpoint. And I think that's important to talk about because we want to kind of really make an impact on one patient or a group of patients, right? And so we have to kind of have a scope. And so I'll talk about a little more kind of what that scope is by kind of talking about the specialties that we represent, because we don't necessarily do everything. Obviously, we only kind of specialize in these core areas. I'll read a couple of these off. Breast melanoma surgery. We have one of the largest breast melanoma groups in the country. They really push the envelope when it comes to even robotic surgery, a lot of the clinical trials, and a lot of new development, new technologies for looking at margins and things like that in surgery. Really great group. We have a huge group of colorectal surgeons. They've been one of the leaders in colorectal surgery in the country, or really the world, both from a training standpoint and from a laparoscopy and now robotics standpoint. We have, subspecialty endocrine surgeons who all they do is endocrine surgery, which is rare compared to most places. I'm in the hepatobiliary and pancreas group. We do a lot of robotic surgery, a lot of image-guided techniques, a lot of bringing in new technologies for tumor treatments, things like that as well. We actually have a growing group of metabolic and abdominal reconstructive surgeons. This is a specialty part of it didn't even exist a couple of years ago, and now we have multiple surgeons in that area who do that, not just bariatric surgery, but also abdominal wall reconstruction. Dr. Ettinger can talk a little bit about oral maxillofacial surgery, probably one of the biggest groups in the country, probably not just in size, but probably the complexity of what they do, if I had to guess, although he can talk on that a little more, really pushing the limits in cancer surgery and flap reconstruction. We do have a pediatric surgery group. We have a pediatric hospital here in Rochester that leverages does a lot of cancer treatments as well. Huge plastic surgery group that's done a lot of research, a lot of first in human type work with face transplants, other kind of innovative techniques as well. Thoracic surgery is in our group, transplant surgery, trauma critical care. Many people think of Mayo as a trauma hospital. We actually have multiple helicopters, 80 ambulances, and serve the region. But also, more importantly, we're a huge acute care practice, meaning we do a lot of emergency surgery because there's a lot of patients in the Midwest who do just need kind of emergency care and do end up traveling to Rochester kind of urgently. So actually a much larger group than people expect necessarily, because it's not something people electively travel in for, but unfortunately many people do need to come to Mayo for that. So a large group. And then the last one that is particularly happy, we have a lot of research innovation in vascular and endovascular surgery with a lot of new device development as well. So that's kind of the scope of our department. The team that really supports innovation, you've met two of us already, Kyle and myself. And then we have two team members I want to introduce because they're really the kind of the face of our team. And that's Betty Leichtenberg and Randy Cullen. They'll be the ones who, if you reach out to us, can help set up meetings, can help meet with you, can help connect you with us or someone else in the department, really kind of to help, not just with the Beahrs Summit, which we'll talk a lot about, but in general, how can we kind of move the needle forward in different innovative ways. So they're really kind of the point people for us, and they'll connect you with either Dr. Engerai or others in the department to kind of help with things like that. And that's a very quick, very high level overview, but I think it's important to kind of set the stage of what we are, because like I said, while Mayo is a huge organization that has innovation in every single area, we're really talking about surgical innovation. And we really want to focus on what we can do to improve the outcomes for patients undergoing surgery. Now, that doesn't just mean intraoperative outcomes. While we do a lot of robotic surgery, bring in new technologies to the OR, the majority of what we do as surgeons actually happens outside of the OR. A lot of us have basic science labs, including new drug development. Like myself, I was an AI lab. Most of that is outside of the OR processes. We do computer vision work in the OR, but a lot of it actually is in the preoperative setting, working with different imaging modalities, bringing in new technologies kind of in terms of how we manage patients So really, when I say surgery, it's the entire kind of surgical care continuum, not just the intraoperative kind of surgical management, which is, of course, a big part of the kind of innovation we do. But a lot of our innovation actually happens before and after surgery in the clinic, in the hospital, and kind of getting patients through their entire kind of care needs at Mayo. So hopefully not too long-winded, but I think it's appreciate the opportunity to kind of set the stage for what we're going to talk about today.
Not at all. I think that was a great kind of foundation for today's discussion, Dr. Thiels. I appreciate that. And with that, I think we can jump into the Innovation Summit itself. And so, for those who may not be acutely familiar, Dr. Ettinger, Dr. Thiels, I wonder if you could share a bit more background on the Beahrs Surgical Innovation Summit, really how it started, and what you see as the core purpose of this event.
Yeah, so as you see here, this is the save the date for our upcoming 2025 Beahrs Innovation Summit, which is our fourth iteration of the summit. But a lot of the premise around and surrounding the summit is to provide a unique opportunity and venue in which we can bring together surgeons, individuals from industry, VC, to have a co-located space where people can actually get together, discuss new topics, discuss opportunities, and actually have just headspace around the ability to think on things and think about the future of surgical healthcare delivery. And so this was initiated, like I said, a number of years, 4 years ago, basically, and every single year has continued to expand and grow. And it, like I said, has really taken off and provided a unique opportunity, different than what you see from other conferences, industry conferences, annual conferences with surgical subspecialties. It's a multi-specialty conference with every group represented that Dr. Thiels had alluded to above, in a really interesting format in which you can potentially bridge or see things that are different from your kind of narrowed focus scope that we as surgeons deal with on a day-to-day basis. This is highlighting here our keynote speaker this year, Camille Farah, who is interestingly from a little bit of my world. He's actually essentially a oral medicine maxillofacial pathologist kind of background, but he actually is the current CEO and managing director of OptiScan. We have our current keynote and kind of focus on digital pathology for this year's 2025 Beahrs Summit. We do intentionally try to avoid having a very narrowed focus within the summit overall, but we do have a focus typically within our keynote. And so digital pathology is one of that, or is that focus for this upcoming summit. This is just a perfect example of what the summit is more or less behind. I mean, this is somebody who came from my arena, but now has co-development agreements in areas of application in robotic surgery for kind of point of care pathology margin assessment, and those are things that are actively ongoing within Mayo Clinic, such that their company has even co-located to Rochester to help to facilitate that development now and into the future as well. So some of the things that we'll be highlighting here in terms of the agenda is a component of the actual summit itself. We're going to have an update on the Bold Forward Unbound, which for those unfamiliar is a new large-scale kind of infrastructure project. It's the largest infrastructure project in the history of the state. It's a $5 billion investment in building essentially the new landscape here at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, building a new physical space with which to help to bring in new technology and incorporate innovation to continue to advance healthcare and surgical delivery to patients. We're going to have some specific individuals who are very entwined with that here, giving an update on that progress. Hopefully you're not picking up any of this background noise from the construction that's actively ongoing that's right outside my office. But it is something that's currently underway and is anticipated to be occurring in the next couple of years here. So some additional things we like to, one of the things we really like about this conference that's different than a lot of other national conferences is the ability to speak on it in a very kind of real and granular level. What does it actually mean to be at the forefront of trying to drive innovation within surgery? We have the opportunity to share a multitude of experiences with individuals, and I think our attendees have historically appreciated the ability to talk about real, practical applications and experiences in which we're trying to bring new and novel technologies or use care applications into the real world and into common practice. And so a lot of our sessions are directed at those exact things, exploring what does it take to take something from ideation all the way through to exit, which is going to be one of our sessions that's always very heavily enjoyed. And one of the things we're actually quite excited about today from a surgical side of things is having basically we call an M&M, and morbidity and mortality on what does it look like when deals don't go right? Because that's oftentimes the best opportunity for learning, is when things don't go as you plan, or what are the learning experiences from our failures. And so we have a very specific session this year on looking at med tech deals and why they don't work out, or potentially why they spin out to another direction, so that hopefully the attendees can learn from that as well. And then finally, we have a very specific focus on looking at ways to integrate technology into image-guided robotic surgery. Obviously, the robotic surgery growing as a large platform overall, and how do we continue to improve that interface with technology that can influence, at the point of care, what surgeons are doing at the time of operation, to facilitate safety, to improve outcomes. And so there's a specific focus on that as well. That's just a quick sneak peek at the things that we're featuring this year. There's actually quite a bit more expansive agenda that's beyond that. And like I said, a lot of opportunities for breakout sessions, for interfacing, for people to build relationships at the summit, as has been done in the past.
Excellent, Dr. Ettinger, thank you. As you've given us a really good look, I think, at obviously the keynote and some of the focus areas for this year's event. But I wonder if you could take almost a step back and to think, what are some of the themes or some of the challenges that have really shaped the planning, in your view, for this year's event?
I think maybe I'll add from that standpoint, I want to emphasize that this is not a traditional conference. There is no clinical talks. There are no research talks. We try to keep it intentionally small, at about 400 to 500 people max, which means, unfortunately, that it's very selective. It's invitation only. We typically look for a lot of C-suite level kind of leaders in the field that we curate to make sure it's a good fit, because we don't want everybody in healthcare attending. There already are great conferences like JP Morgan or LSI, which this is similar to, that's kind of for everyone. This isn't for everyone. This is really, how do we find partners that are great fits for us in Mayo Clinic, for the Department of Surgery, to innovate for the next 12 months. And obviously it's a 1 day or kind of 2 days with dinners and things like that event, but it's our kind of 1 day kind of time where we can come together. We can all block off our schedules. There's nothing else to do necessarily in Rochester in the winter for many people. So we talk just about innovation and how we can kind of co-innovate together over the next year. A lot of times we'll get things moving beforehand, but it's kind of our 1 day where we have no excuse but to sit down and kind of talk about kind of how to actually innovate together. When I say 400 people, I want to emphasize the vast majority of those are not clinicians. We don't allow external clinicians or trainees to come, because that's not the goal. We have just our core 100 surgeons and researchers focused on innovation in surgery who are there, as well as some administrators kind of in that area, of course. And then the vast majority, or all the other attendees, are from leadership, medical technology companies and leaders from those companies. We do try to heavily focus on startup and limit large strategics to some degree, but of course, some large strategics are doing a ton of innovation and are innovative. So we, of course, allow them to join as well, but about 75% are traditionally more in the startup space. As Dr. Ettinger mentioned, we do have some venture capital, both from Mayo and externally, who's there, because we want this to be a mutually beneficial event for everyone. Obviously, raising funds is important. And while we're, of course, looking to collaborate Mayo and medical technology companies, we're also hoping that this helps bring together other medical technology companies. Because what we need, and actually to actually help patients, is we need not only the most innovative technologies and new developments, but we need them to also work together, right? And so that's really one of the big focuses of this, is how can companies work together to allow us to then help patients, and how can we kind of all work together in that? So that's really kind of the goal of the 1 day version of the summit, which is our kind of 1 day for innovation that we do all year.
Great. And I see that Dr. Farah from Optiscan is a keynote speaker. Excited about that, obviously. Another great Medical Alley partner as well. I wonder if either of you could preview some of the other discussions or areas of this event that you are particularly excited about.
Yeah, Dr. Ettinger, you want to add a little more, or not again?
Yeah. As I mentioned, like I said, there's a lot of opportunities to really drill down into the nitty gritty of things. And like I said, some of the other things we're actually kind of excited about this year. So like I said, to talk about maybe the things that kind of the quiet part getting said out loud, in terms of, like I said, we have the morbidity and mortality and the kind of the anatomy of a failed deal kind of a thing. And so that's one additional thing that we're still very, very excited about, because it's a somewhat unique thing that I think doesn't really get spoken about many times in kind of open venues such as this. we have, like I said, a lot of opportunity for, like I said, interfacing. You're going to actually have this year as well, some kind of pre and post conference networking opportunities amongst all of the attendees. That's very directed time for the surgeons that they have protected to be able to spend with companies, and not only kind of on the front end, but also to kind of solidify things even on the back end, because a lot of this is about meeting and interfacing face to face for the first time, and there's going to be opportunities for circle backs and ways to continue to develop. We're actually also currently in the process of, like I said, not only identifying individuals who will be attending and companies who will be attending, but the goal of all of this surrounding also is to try to ensure that we set up things ongoing, not just specifically focusing on the conference or on the summit, but that using that as a building point. And so we have, active opportunities that we're looking at now with individuals, and using the summit as, like I said, a focal point to build off of that. But having even agreements and opportunities to meet with individuals even leading up to that, which is actively ongoing at the present time.
Excellent. Excellent. I also noticed in particular a focus on digital pathology, and I'm curious if either of you might be able to highlight or explain why highlight that area, and how is digital pathology currently being leveraged in the surgical practice?
Yeah, I think digital pathology came up as a exciting area in the last year. I mean, obviously it's not new in the last year, but we thought it'd be something that would be relevant to a lot of different people, because it actually does impact almost everything in the perioperative setting, and needs to be integrated. But it is a very new thing, right? Pathology has historically not been digital at all. It has been very much based on that slide. But at Mayo, we digitize every single slide. I think about 10% of the country is now doing that. That'll at some point be 100%, but we need to now integrate that in with the rest of the technologies and the rest of the care we do. And so that's really what this conference is about too, is integrating new technologies and innovations in with the other modalities, right? How do we not just create isolated silos of innovation, but how do we kind of combine that in with everything else that's happening? If it's, whether it be the computer systems to help us schedule our days, to the robots we use in the OR, to the screens we show information, it can't just be an isolated digital scan. It needs to be integrated kind of with all those different things. Dr. Farrar is a excellent innovator and leader worldwide, bringing him to New Zealand for the talk to kind of share how he's collaborated with Mayo Clinic, because obviously our goal is to create collaborations with Mayo Clinic, and we want to share examples of how we can do that, how we can do it, we think, very well, that's mutually beneficial to everyone. And so that's I think, great example, but I think it's also some, up and coming technology will be exciting to kind of hear about. But again, as Dr. admitted, the purpose of the summit is we're going to share some of what we do, but really a lot of it is hearing from what our medical technology kind of partners and future partners are doing, are looking for. So how can we kind of innovate together? Because, yes, we have great ideas, but a lot of the great ideas are from outside of Mayo Clinic. And we just think we have a lot of great opportunities to work together, and we want to kind of highlight that and share that. The one thing I kind of didn't talk about, we kind of got at this a little bit. The format of the conference is we're all in one room together. There is no sales floor where there's a bunch of sales booths and vendors. We do have some opportunity to share as startups, to share new devices, new technologies, so you can see that and work with it. But there's really no sales kind of area. We don't allow sales team members to come. Now, of course, for startups and even larger companies, everybody does sales. We fully acknowledge that. But that's not the focus. And we all sit together. We're at round tables, sitting together, networking. And majority of the conference is really built around that networking and trying to connect people together, mostly, obviously, people outside of Mayo with Mayo, but also other companies, things like that. So we can spend the day in person in Rochester actually networking and having those conversations that, unfortunately or fortunately, are just better to have in person, right? We can just get a lot more done with a quick 5-15-minute in-person conversation about something. We'll hopefully have some, we have in the past had some really great speakers and great keynote panels and fireside chats throughout the day that we all kind of engage and kind of kickstart that conversation. But really, our goal is to kind of just have more conversations and move the needle forward. It's not just another conference where you kind of attend for the day and then drive home. The goal is really to foster and push for those conversations that we in the past have seen as a great opportunity to kickstart innovation for the following year, so that we can actually create kind of what we want to get out of the conference for both of us in the future. And we can talk about that more too.
Well, let's talk about too the types of companies that you're seeking. You've mentioned kind of the general format of summits in the past, but what types of companies are you seeking for this really intimate, curated gathering, and who do you see benefiting the most from an event like this?
Yeah, so there obviously, I think Dr. Thiels alluded to earlier, we're looking for companies at various stages of development, all the way from startup to even having a presence from larger strategics. I think there's different opportunities for engagement and co-development and know-how and things along the way of a company's development. And truthfully, like he mentioned as well, this is meant to be not just beneficial for Mayo, but also beneficial, at large for all of the attendees. And so certainly the hope is that we can foster the agreements and know-how relationships and help and facilitate co-development for technologies that we feel are going to truly support and benefit the care of our patients. But it's all of the above, because you need to have companies represented from all different spheres in order to sometimes make true innovation work happen in practice, and you can't just have it be at one. But so we do definitely certainly have a focus towards kind of the earlier startup side, but that's also done in an intentional fashion such that every year we can have similar ones that are maybe wanting to return, but also at the same time have new and up and coming companies be featured as well. Because like I said, it's meant to be a forum that's open, that we can share and kind of bring to the light all the things and all the interesting and novel work that's being done at large. And then oftentimes there are things that are recognized from strategics that would be a technology they would say, well, that's really interesting, let's talk about that, or how do we integrate that into an existing platform as well.
I think I'll just add maybe one more thing to that too. I think, that initially sounds broad, but I think that's where it's important to emphasize that we really are just focusing on surgery and just the areas of surgery that we have expertise on, because we can't innovate everywhere. We can only help innovate in areas that we have expertise on. And so we can help with that, right? We screen and we actually meet one-on-one with companies before they are invited to attend, to kind of make sure it's a good fit, because we don't want to waste someone's time either coming to Rochester for this if it's not going to be mutually beneficial. And so we'll make sure that it is a good fit kind of for someone to attend to, so we don't waste your time or money. Again, this summit is a benefactor sponsored event. We don't look to make any money off this. We are just looking to kind of help foster innovation, and we actually have funds to help do that, fortunately. So not looking to make money, not looking to bring in more people, just looking to bring in the right people. And I'll be honest, in addition to making sure that we have something to offer, because we might not have something to offer. In some cases, Mayo is not the right place to co-innovate together. And we want to be very upfront with that. We don't have the time. We have a lot of other things we want to innovate in. If it's not the right fit, we'll be very upfront with you. And I think, on the time, it's pretty obvious even to the medical technology leaders, you guys know when we're the right fit or right not. But that's what we want to find, is when that right fit is. And really the goal is, right, to have this conference result in something. And for us, what we're really looking for is to result in those innovations over the next year that we can do together, right? Those first in human kind of trials or other stage clinical trials, those co-development kind of that we can do with industry, where we can bring something to the table, the industry can bring something to the table and kind of co-develop together. That can be a new product or a modification of a product or a technology. Kind of proactive IP creation, where we bring IP or new devices we developed out and help commercialize that with industry. A lot of know-how agreements where we can share kind of a lot of the ways we do things, a lot of the patient data, a lot of kind of testing new devices kind of at Mayo Clinic. And then everything all the way to new company formation. And that's obviously one of the examples that we'll share kind of some of that, is where it's either new company formation or new product line kind of development with companies. And that's what we have at Rochester too, where companies actually do either move to Rochester or kind of co-created in Rochester. That's not necessarily majority or everything, but that is also a part of it as well. And that's what we're trying to figure out, is who needs that and who would make sense to bring to Rochester for this summit to do those things. If it's just trying to sell a piece of technology to Mayo, this summit isn't the right fit for that, right? Not that doesn't happen around this too, right? Because obviously if it's innovative technology, we want to use it to help our patients, but that's not what this summit is for. It's not just to showcase innovative technologies, it's to create the technologies of the future.
I think that's a really important point, Dr. Thiels. Thank you. I wonder too, how do you, and you've touched on this a little bit, but I wonder if you could dive a little deeper too into how you see this summit driving collaboration beyond Mayo Clinic, really across institutions, across startups, and even potentially across academia as well.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, even just looking at the companies and the portfolios of companies that we've had the opportunity to work with, we work with delegations that are from international areas, and so these are companies in which you would never otherwise have the opportunity to, like I said, to interface with. And so bringing people and, like I said, bringing high level individuals from these different areas together provides this, like I said, super unique opportunity to see the work that's being done, not only even stateside or within academia, but far and away beyond kind of what our kind of initial kind of thought would be like reach nationally. And so we have a number of agreements with companies in Europe, and like I said, and even in this process of the summit being around for 4 years, have had a number of relationships established myself personally with companies in Europe, and like I said, Dr. Thiels has connections as well. And those types of relationships would never have happened, and these agreements would never have occurred had it not been for the foundation of the summit and what it's looking to foster. And so, again, that's part of our active process that surrounds the summit, that kind of happens kind of behind closed doors in the background, but is always with the summit kind of in focus, is kind of again, that focal point. But we're actively, developing that and curating those relationships throughout the year. And the summit is like I said, oftentimes serves as that point where we can re-interface again, re-engage again, kind of directly, because we're all extremely busy, and but it does provide that kind of co-established time for us to physically get together again, which is great.
Yeah, I think that in-person connection really is key. I appreciate some of the questions that have already come in, which I think is great. Let's make this an engaging discussion here too. So if you're watching, please feel free to drop those questions into the Q&A box and we can get them answered. I think one kind of fits into a question that I already had too, is kind of around that engagement pre and post summit. How can participants engage with Mayo Clinic or each other really before and after this event?
Yeah, I think the first step is if you reach out to us about it, or if we were to you about it, we set up a meeting, and it's a quick 30-minute. It's not a pitch. It's more just to understand what each other's goals are. A little bit of what we've already shared today is covered in that, obviously, but really mostly to hear from the company to make sure it's a good fit. And then if it's a good fit, we going to work together on what part of being part of the conference would make sense, and ideally see if there's things we can kind of kick off before the conference already. Obviously, the reason we do the conference is because it is helpful to meet in person and kind of kick things off. But a lot of times we'll end up scheduling a meeting in person or getting something moving forward before the conference. Like it's just our one day kind of way to kind of kickstart things. And then around the conference itself, the conference is 8 to 5 or during the day. But we do kind of host. There's some dinners before and after, co-sponsored with industry, and we actually block off people's time, because time is the number one resource that in healthcare, and actually everywhere, but definitely in healthcare, is the hardest thing is time. We're fortunate to have a lot of financial resources at Mayo Clinic to innovate, a lot of support to innovate, but time is still the number one most difficult thing, because we're all busy actually providing patient care or developing the innovations. And so blocking off time is what we think is one of the most important things. And so that's what we do internally. And obviously we think by bringing people to Rochester, Minnesota, we block off people's time externally because they're in Rochester, Minnesota and have a day or two blocked off. So we block off our time before and after the summit to make sure that we have time to actually meet and actually sit down. Obviously, we're hoping that people who travel to Rochester have less meetings scheduled for that day as well. And so it's kind of a day before, day after opportunity to get together in addition to time at the summit itself. And then, yeah, I think
I could quickly add, just piggybacking on that as well. We have a specific app around the app that is designed to facilitate connection. So that was something that was introduced a year to 2 years ago, and it has been continued to be developed, and it's been extremely useful because not only are we using that as an opportunity on site to kind of create on the fly meetings and time for networking, but also what we'll be doing this year very intentionally is essentially pre-setting up surgeons with companies that have interest in their specific areas or devices or technology that's unique to what their clinical practices would be. And that's the role that we serve as well, obviously, as kind of the representatives from the Department of Surgery, is understanding what our kind of clinical practice needs are, where all the niche specialties are, where the expertise is, and then preemptively connecting you with those individuals as a component of the conference. And that's all available through the app. So we would have preset meetings even antecedent to the conference the summit happening itself, that you can then follow up on, but then also having the opportunity through the app to engage and identify individuals on your own independently that you may want to seek out potential networking opportunities with. And so that's something that's been done that has worked extremely well and has been very well received in terms of making people feel like they're connected on the day. Because with the summit, obviously there's the agenda, but then there's the background agenda of the things that you want to do and the people that you may want to meet. And the app is extremely useful in facilitating that.
I have a question too, just about, as you think about companies that have been really successful in utilizing this time well. I wonder, Dr. Ettinger, Dr. Thiels, what advice would you give to these companies to really make the most of their experience if they are part of this year's summit?
I think one of the simplest pieces of advice is we would prefer companies are upfront and honest with us. I think they all are. But tell us what you're looking for too, right? And what your needs are when we meet, when we discuss, and we can try to work through if that is a good fit. And if it's not, I think everybody would usually prefer to walk away from that. We find that actually that happens much less frequently than we would expect. Again, one of our hardest things is we try to keep this intentionally small. We don't want it to grow. We try to limit it, which is hard because we have to say no sometimes to things that have a lot of potential, but maybe we're not the right fit for that potential, right? If there isn't an opportunity to kind of co-innovate together, that doesn't mean that the innovation isn't incredibly important. That just means that maybe that where that stage that company is at and what that company needs isn't the right fit for Mayo Clinic. And we don't think we are the right fit in every situation. We do think based on our history, we have done a lot of great innovation and been the right fit in many cases, but of course that's not going to be in every scenario. And that's where we also intentionally limit the scope a little bit as well, so that we can not dilute kind of what we do from innovation standpoint and only create the most innovative solutions together with kind of medical technology leaders to really impact patients. So we don't just want another tool or another thing. We want something that's really going to change healthcare and improve the outcomes of patients. Because what we do is we treat a lot of patients, a lot of serious and complex things, and we want the most innovative things to help do that, not just today, but as part of Bold Forward is the next 5, 10, 50 years, and how can we kind of do that together, and where can we add value there is kind of the thing that we want to sort out before the conference or at the conference at the latest, so we don't waste each other's time or money on that. So.
Yeah. I could just dovetail quickly off that too. I would certainly echo that the openness and the sharing is critically important, because I think a lot of times, we'll meet with companies and they'll give us, their insights as to what they're doing, and we'll actually say, well, have you thought about it this way? Or these are some additional areas in a subspecialty that they're maybe not even considering as an application. These are things that literally happen as we're doing these meetings constantly, where we have a company that comes up with a very specific idea, but oh, by the way, that also maybe applies to vascular surgery or to metabolic abdominal wall reconstruction. So there are those opportunities, but those things don't come to fruition unless we get a very clear picture. And that's some of the benefit of being an attendee, is that you get kind of more of that focus, kind of, I don't know if white glove's the right kind of terminology for that, but very kind of like focused, ideating around their technology and what potentially we could do from a surgical side to try to, see that come to the fore.
Perfect. We do have a few questions coming in, and we'll get to those here in just a moment. But I wonder if Dr. Ettinger, Dr. Thiels, you could give us a bit of a sense of the makeup of the group in attendance. Because from what you've told me so far, it's not just this group, it's not just clinicians, it's not just founders. It really touches on a wide and diverse audience within the medtech community. Is that right?
Yeah, I think absolutely right. I think that, our goal is to bring the right people to the table, and that right person in some cases might be the C-suite of that company. In some cases, not. If we're really looking to kind of do more of a clinical trial together or develop something from a development standpoint, then maybe it's more somebody who leads in the research area, or maybe it is somebody who is actually doing the research at that company. Or maybe it's something that they already have a product that's ready and they're looking more for funding. Then maybe it's more kind of bringing in somebody from the finance side to meet with venture capital. Like I said, we have a large venture capital presence from Mayo, but also externally that comes. And so we want to kind of bring those right people in who are looking for those opportunities. And it's more kind of who is the right person. Again, like I said, we don't want this to be a sales conference. We try really hard to make sure that's not what it is. But we acknowledge that in order for a product to be successful, it has to be financially viable, and so you have to sell it. So absolutely, right? Everyone in theory does sales, especially for startups. So it's not that we cannot have salespeople there, but for large strategics, we clearly don't want this to be filled with kind of sales, because that's not the intention. We're not looking just to purchase products, to bring in products to Mayo Clinic. We're kind of looking to co-innovate together and make sure there is an opportunity there. So yeah, we kind of curate the list very selectively. We personally invite not just the companies, but also who from that company is going to attend, mostly so it remains high level for everyone. We want to have the leaders of healthcare innovation and surgery in the room, but we want to keep it at a couple hundred people so we can actually sit down at a table together and talk. And we don't want a 2,000 or 1,000 person conference where we don't have those opportunities. So we try to kind of create a very curated list from everything from startups to as well as, larger strategics, because larger strategics do a lot of innovation. They have a lot of startup, innovations within their portfolio. And of course, we want to make sure we have the right people from those areas there as well. Also, because it's opportunity sometimes for startups to meet with those CEOs from larger strategics or those leaders kind of from their divisions. But we do it in a very curated way that's not the same for every company, because not every company's kind of innovation needs are the same, or partnership opportunities are the same. So there isn't just has to be a CEO from every company, or has to be person X, Y, or Z, because we want a diverse group of people to come together and talk about innovation.
Excellent. Some really good questions coming in here too. And I think one that's top of the list right now is from companies looking to attend, and how can they secure an invitation for those who may not have attended in the past? What's your best advice to those founders, those companies looking to be in the room that day?
Yeah, I would say reach out. We actually have a online intake form, and like I said, we're actively looking for individuals that are interested in coming, interested in experiencing it. And so the team that we alluded to, there's obviously a great team of individuals behind Dr. Thiels and myself that can help and facilitate that. And we can certainly, I'm sure through channels, Ben, with you guys as well, look at avenues in which we can get connected for that. So if by all means, it's not as hard as it may sound, or as challenging as it may sound. Part of it's just being made aware of it, because sometimes obviously we're not aware of other companies that are out there that are potentially interested or have really interesting technology or techniques, and we're that's the whole point of why we're doing this, is to try to find those individuals and connect. And so this is an avenue with which we can make you aware, and then if you are interested, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We have some mechanisms for gathering information, and then we will end up invariably just setting up a meeting to kind of talk about the fit, as Dr. Thiels has alluded to.
Yeah. And we'll make sure.
One more thing, maybe we'll put the website in the chat one more time in case you missed it in the slides. That is one way to get more information. Reach out. You can reach out directly to Betty, Randy, or us. And then Ben, I might pass over to you. You guys have been an awesome partner. Maybe you could highlight how they can go through you to reach out, because that is a really helpful way to kind of get to connect.
Yeah, that communication link will be part of Medical Alley's outreach. It will certainly be included in the follow-up email with the link to this webinar to everybody who is in attendance today. And then more broadly, we'll make sure that that's highlighted to our network as well. Another question, a good question coming in, is biotechnology within the scope of this event? The person asking this question says that they have a startup in mind that mixes biomarkers with medtech in the cardiovascular field.
I'm happy to answer that. So I personally do a lot of biomarker research, and I know many in our department do. So we definitely have a strong interest in biomarker research, kind of collaborating, either bringing out internally developed technologies out, or external technologies, and validating at Mayo Clinic, or adapting them to different patient populations, because we have a large volume of patients that we treat in that. What I'll say from a cardiovascular standpoint is we do try to keep the scope focused, right? Our expertise is not in cardiac surgery or non-surgical cardiovascular diseases. That doesn't mean that we couldn't maybe help connect you with people at Mayo, but that's not the intent of this conference, not the kind of experts that we help connect people with. We do have thoracic surgery and vascular surgery, endovascular and vascular surgery of the abdomen and extremities is part of it, but intentionally cardiology, cardiac surgery is not part of this, just because that's its whole nother, they actually have their own similar kind of process and similar teams. And we don't want to dilute this. We want to keep this kind of as a narrow, really focused scope that we can actually make progress on. So yes, with a caveat of depending on what area of medicine, just because medicine is large and diverse, and we don't want to waste your time either if it's not kind of within our scope.
Yeah. Again, this is for everyone in attendance. This is your opportunity here now to put your questions in that you have for Dr. Thiels and for Dr. Ettinger. Glad to see some of them starting to come in here too. Dr. Ettinger, I'll pose this next question to you. Just curious, as you've attended these in the past, what do you enjoy most about this particular event? Like, what really stands out to you, and what do you think makes this event unique?
Yeah, I think a number of things, and I think I've probably alluded to some of this prior. You maybe have kind of read between the lines, but I like especially the uniqueness of the conference, and that it's in the summit, and that it's different than virtually any other conference you're going to attend throughout the year in terms of its focus and what it's looking to do. And again, putting individuals that would otherwise never sit in the same room throughout the course of a year in one place at one time, thinking broadly, about innovation at large and ways in which we can truly shape the future of healthcare and surgical healthcare delivery. It's something that, again, doesn't happen often. It's super unique in that regard. And like I said, what you're able to build off of that using, again, this is the focal point. It has been phenomenal to see the growth. I think, one of the issues that we run into every year is just the kind of exponential increase in interest and what this summit has truly grown to over the course of 4 years. And obviously it's still on that upward trajectory as we move forward here. But it's a highlight, I know, of all of the surgeons here within the department, every year annually to see, what happens. And I think every year we're making it better. We're developing it further. Our team that's behind it continues to grow. And like I said, it truly is one of the highlights from our department side throughout the course of our academic and clinical year.
We have one question coming in here from James, who asks, is patient safety an area that works for this conference?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Mayo Clinic has always been, the needs of the patient come first, and we live and die by that guiding principle. And yes, patient safety is an area that we're absolutely, interested in, kind of the perioperative window, pre-surgically, post-surgically, intraoperatively. Obviously that's a huge, arena in which, so that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but absolutely, yes.
I think I'll take that a step further. I think that's actually something we can uniquely offer. And while every hospital and every physician cares about patient safety, I think one of the unique things about Mayo Clinic is we are all employed physicians at Mayo Clinic, meaning everyone at Mayo Clinic is salary, doesn't work by RVU base, which is what 99% of the country works on. So that allows us to have time for innovation and to think about patients, but allows us also to focus on the patient, because it doesn't matter if we have to spend 1 minute or 1 month on a patient, our salary is the same. And that is a unique business model that I think is really important and makes Mayo unique. But that allows us to also really focus on patient safety when it comes to innovation and research, because we have to make it work for the patients and for the clinicians. And sometimes that results in pushback when we co-develop together, because we do say, yes, this has to actually work for the patient. You're always going to find a physician or a hospital that's going to say yes to an opportunity to work together with industry. There's 100 hospitals or thousands of hospitals out there, and you're always going to find somebody, but you can't always find somebody at Mayo Clinic, because in some cases, if we don't think it's really going to work in the end and really going to be the best thing for patients, or we don't see a pathway to getting it there, and usually there is, then that's not going to be the right fit for us. And that's obviously the expertise we bring. The whole point of this is that we don't bring the expertise of, a lot of times, how can this technically be done, right? Mayo has a rich history of building things in the basement, meaning we built the first heart-lung bypass machine in the basement. If you go to any OR in the world, a lot of the instruments they use are called the Mayo scissors, the Mayo stand, things like that. There are instruments in those ORs that were developed at Mayo, literally in the basement here in our machine shops. However, we are very honest, and luckily from a leadership CEO standpoint down, have been kind of encouraged that we can't innovate that way anymore. We can't build these technologies in the basement. We need to partner with industry who has the experts, the engineering experts, the biosciences experts, to actually help us build these technologies. And when I say build, I don't always mean machine them, I mean code them, whatever it is. And then we don't have the experts, though, from a venture capital and a financial standpoint to know what's financially viable, because we have a lot of ideas that we think can absolutely change patient care. But if they're not financially viable, then that's not a realistic product to help more patients in the future. And that's kind of the whole point of this summit, is where we get all three of those together, right? We get all three of those groups together to actually create a product that's going to be successful in the future. That's what we've seen this conference kind of result in. And that's really the whole reason we keep doing this in terms of what we want to achieve in the future.
Well, Dr. Thiels, I think that's a great place to wrap today's discussion. I want to thank you and Dr. Ettinger really for your time and for sharing a bit more kind of a behind the scenes look at this year's summit, which again takes place Tuesday, November 18th. So just a couple of months here. And of course, we will be in touch with the best ways to reach out to your team to make sure that that our attendees have got a line of sight into how they can participate. And a really nice comment comes in here just as we're wrapping up. Just so impressed by Mayo Clinic's professionality and values. So thank you for our attendee who posted that here into the Q&A today. Glad that you enjoyed today's discussion. Again, Dr. Thiels, Dr. Ettinger, really appreciate your time, and looking forward to this summit here in just a couple of months. I'll give one opportunity, Dr. Ettinger, Dr. Thiels, to kind of have the last word here before we wrap up.
No, I'll just say thank you so much for organizing, and thank you for everyone who attended. I know everyone's busy. We really appreciate you listening in, and would love to chat more in the future, either at the summit or otherwise. So.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for the opportunity. I think you can probably read between the lines. You can see that Dr. Thiels and I are both very, very interested, very excited about this, and we represent kind of the tip of the iceberg of a lot of additional surgeons who are very potentially excited to work with you and your potential companies and technology and now and into the future. So thank you again for the opportunity to be with you guys today.
Well, thank you both. For everybody listening in, keep an eye out from an email from us with the recording of this webinar. Please share that with your colleagues, with your friends as well. And then there's going to be contact information there as well to get in touch with the Mayo team. So again, thank you everybody for being here, and have a wonderful rest of your day.